For once, victimhood doesn't pay. Let's have a look at Cindy Pryor. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. So, Cindy Pryor, the administrator from QUT who kicked a bunch of lads out of a Indigenous-only computer lab, is now bankrupt. This case, it has special meaning for me because I'm a QUT alumni. I studied architecture there. I helped with their program they had for Indigenous students to get additional tutoring. You know, I had one guy I was providing additional support to in architecture in a range of subjects. And I remember they pulled me into their unit to say, oh, how can we get him through? Look, he's failing this subject, this subject, this subject. And I said, well, maybe he should quit architecture. He might be better in the trade like his dad. Because if he's failing these subjects over and over again, he obviously isn't interested in it, and he expects me to do the work for him. So the poor guy wasn't keen. But, you know, helped him through. I think he did it okay in the subject. But what stood out for me, what memory I've taken away from that years ago, they never asked me back again, but it was how he was explaining to me that he was going to the Indigenous-only games, the uni games, the Aboriginal-only version of it. And I didn't understand why they needed to have an Aboriginal-only one. Why they wanted to have a separate one. You know, sure, building community and camaraderie, fantastic, but don't you want everyone to get together? Don't you want diversity? It seemed odd to me, and I wasn't as aware of all of this SJW rubbish that was just starting to seep into the universities there, or I was probably oblivious to it, to be honest. So, let's have a read of this. So the administrator who worked, the administration worker. Now that in itself is a bit of an issue. That at universities now they've got so many support staff compared to actual staff that are teaching and doing things. It's just getting insane. Who launched a $250,000 racial discrimination lawsuit against 3 QUT students, has been declared bankrupt over failing to pay court-ordered costs after she lost her high-profile case. Now the initial response is to think, oh yeah, good on ya, you know, get her, but in some ways you have to feel sorry for her, because guaranteed there were people pushing her up to this, that you know, oh, here's a payday for you, or you can make some money, oh, you're too stressed. It's just, for once, victimhood hasn't paid out. And in some ways I feel sorry for this woman for believing that she was a victim, considering what happened. The Federal Circuit Court yesterday declared former QUT staffer Cindy Pryor bankrupt over the debts. Ms. Pryor took a case against Alex Wood, Jackson Powell, and Callum Twaits, over Facebook posts in 2013 claiming the online post contravened Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, our favourite section. The section makes it illegal to offend, insult, humiliate, or intimidate another person or group on the grounds of race, colour, or ethnicity. Perhaps the boys who were kicked out of an unsigned Indigenous-only lab may have been insulted. Maybe they found it humiliating, and maybe it was offensive, her behaviour. Why aren't they going QUT for breaching Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act for their behaviour? It's all, you know what it's all for. It's all just BS and one-sided. And the problem is they think they'll help, you know, a marginalised community by segregating them in these labs that half the time are bloody empty anyway. Because you know, when you go to uni, you want to meet other people, you want to hang out with other people, you want to meet girls, you want to meet boys, and you kind of do that in the computer labs, or the bars, or the sport fields, or around the campus. Okay? I met my wife in a computer lab, so I'm speaking from experience here. Ms. Pryor was ordered to pay more than $100,000 in court costs to legal representatives of Mr. Woods. She also owes an estimated $150,000 to legal representatives of the other 2 students. So who is actually making the money out of this? Well, the lawyers won't, because she's bankrupt now, but, you know, it's the lawyers. The legal stoush followed an incident where Ms. Pryor ejected non-Indigenous students, including Mr. Wood, from an Indigenous-only computer lab at QUT's Brisbane campus on May 28 in 2013. I remember studying there. It often would be hard to get a computer lab to do your work, you know. So you'd just go everywhere throughout the campus. Soon after Mr. Wood left the room, he made a post on the Facebook Facebook page QUT Stalker Space, which read, "Just got kicked out of the unsigned Indigenous computer room. QUT stopping segregation with segregation." Yeah, that's a good post. Miss Pryor, who earns about $172,000 a year, had offered to pay a lump sum of $200 and $100 every 2 weeks for 3 years to settle the case with Mr. Woods, arguing she was a single mother of 3. That's nothing. That's a couple of $100 a year. That's not even $1,000 a year. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. So, this is the outcome of it. What's going to happen? You know, should she be forced to pay? But for those of you who don't remember, let's look at the case that it was thrown out. So the QUT Computer Lab racial discrimination lawsuit thrown out, and this is an article from a few years ago. The federal court has thrown out a lawsuit brought under the Racial Discrimination Act against 3 Queensland University of Technology students under Section 18C. The federal circuit court judge, Michael Garrett, has ruled that the lawsuit by Indigenous staff member Cindy Pryor should not proceed against Alex Wood, Callum and Jackson. Pryor was suing for $250,000 in damages, but the 3 students had applied not to have the case proceed. For the reason I have expressed above, in my view, Ms. Pryor does not enjoy reasonable prospects of successfully prosecuting her proceedings against each of the 3 gentlemen. He wrote in his conclusion, "Her proceedings against each of them must be dismissed." Outside the court, their lawyers said that Pryor and the 3 students were victims in a case which should not have been allowed to go that far. Yes, that is true. That is very true. It should not have gotten this far. It just shows you the problem with the Human Rights Commission. It's continuing this victim mentality and the victim narrative. This woman is thinking that she's a victim because of some posts on Facebook. Oh, and she has to sue them to teach them. That should be worrying. You know, where's QT's response to all of this? I think they kind of pretty much abandoned her. They abandoned the boys. It's terrible. He criticized the president of the Human Rights Commission, Gillian Triggs. The commission administers the Racial Discrimination Act. The commission put out a statement saying it accepted the court's decision. Dwight said he was relieved at the outcome and happy to be able to go on with his life. The case relates to an encounter in 2013 when Woods was asked to leave a computer lab known as the Udadru unit. That was the unit I'd worked with, reserved for Indigenous students. That was the unit there. I remember that. The Indigenous students there would get, I think, 3 hours extra or 2 hours extra per subject to help them with it. And yeah, you know, international students, they'd also get additional support. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. You could have a bad tutor where it doesn't work out, and just a fresh perspective, particularly in architecture. But I remember this kid wanted me to do the work for him, and I said, "Nah, mate, that's not how I roll. I don't do that." And I was kind of surprised he'd gotten that far. And well, I wasn't. I was used to QUT kind of just slipping them through the cracks sometimes in architecture. And, you know, with group work, you can kind of slide through, and that happens all the time, even in my year, all the way through. So, yeah, it just shows you that that's a bit more of a refresher, that it was kicked out, and this is the attempt to get funds from her that's now failed. Guys, what do you think? You know? Is she as much a victim as the other ones? As the young blokes? You know, will this ruin their careers? Probably not. They've probably made a lot of interesting connections from it, guaranteed. Do you think we need to address these laws? Why isn't 18C being discussed as much anymore? You know, we need to get rid of 18C. It's outdated. It's being used for malice. And it's pushing people to think they're victims. So guys, thank you for joining me for this episode of Heiser Says. Please like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell if you want to see my daily updates, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.